Hey, good morning. It's still morning here on the West Coast. This is Cody Cox with Trinity National Holdings. I'm out on my Friday stroll, and this is the last Friday of the month in September here, and also the last Friday of the quarter, which is pretty significant in a lot of ways for note investors as we head into the fourth quarter. I'm already seeing a lot of banks and hedge funds that are looking for ways to kind of clean out the balance of their asset accounts. So there's a lot of non-performing note tapes that are hitting my desk right now, and it's a matter of just sitting down and figuring them out, going through the due diligence and figuring out what if there's any assets there that are worthy. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of a stormy, intermittent day today. Last several Friday strolls have been wonderful, awesome days, but today the weather's turning. It's actually looking like we're getting into a little bit of fall, but this is not a weather report, so let me get on to what I'm talking about here. Hey, basically, so what do I do on these Friday strolls is I spend some time and talk about, some of the things that have been on my mind and on my heart for the past week. And earlier this week, I listened to the Note Closer show that is done every day by Scott Carson, and he talked about knowing your value, which I think is really important, that we each need to know what value we bring to the marketplace. And that's an important part. Obviously, every one of us are valued in the sight of God. We're valued in the sight of humanity and each other. But what sort of value do we bring to the marketplace? And it got me thinking about really what I'm going to call reengineering myself. And I'm not talking so much about a change in philosophy or a change in my basic lifestyle, if you will. But really what it has to do is re-engineering my cash flow, my income levels, so I can achieve certain perspective and goals and callings that I have. And I've kind of talked about this before, I think, on previous Friday strolls. And that is, I am a firm believer that every one of us have within us a certain calling, a certain gifting, a bent, if you will, that so many of us are not fulfilling simply because we're tied down with this thing called a job. And I've got a day job, and there are plenty of times that it has bogged me down from doing some of the things that I want to do. For instance, here just a couple weekends ago, there was a distressed mortgage expo that was down in Orange County, and I would have loved to have gone to that, but I couldn't. And there's some things coming up here. There's this Note Expo thing coming up in Dallas here in a few weeks in November, and I'd love to go to that, but I can't. So anyway, there's just things that jobs do for us, and I think most of us are really kind of unfulfilled when we don't do the things that we're called to do. And so what I challenge you guys all today is to do this little exercise, and I did it again last night, that I think will go a long ways to get you guys where you want to be, so you're fulfilled, so you're actually doing what you were called to do, that little inherent thing inside each of us that turns us on, that keeps us going. Now, I know some guys that have jobs, and they're perfectly happy with guys. I got a guy I graduated from high school with that has been teaching. He's an educator. He's been teaching at a community college level for, I think it's a little over 30 years now. And he loves that. He's changing lives. And that's exactly one of the ways that having a job can fulfill him. I've got another friend of mine who, from very, very young, knew what he wanted to do. And everything he did pursued that. Now he flies commercial airlines. Doesn't have passengers. His passengers are boxes. So he doesn't have those problems in the back cabin there. But, he's been doing what he's wanted to do for the last 30 or so years. So, there are those kind of jobs which do fulfill people's calling, social workers and things like that. But for most of us, that's not what we want to do. We have to get up every morning and go to a job and basically trade our time for money. But here's this little exercise I'm talking about. So what I'd call you to do, and again, I did it last night, is figure out what sort of income you need in order to live the lifestyle that you want to live. And then increase that by 20 to 25%. And figure out, again, how much annual income that is, how many weeks per year you want to work, and then how many hours per week you want to work, and that kind of gives you what your value is, or a dollar amount of dollars per hour. So many of us are clamoring for $15 an hour, $20, $25 an hour. With this exercise, you could actually end up putting a comma in your hourly wage. So, and then what you need to do is you need to find a way that you can replace your current income to meet these kind of incomes that you've got through your calculations here, and earn that income from doing whatever you want to do, whatever your calling is, or at least an income stream that can support that. So let me tell you what I mean, what's going on with me now here, okay? And maybe that'll put it in a little perspective. As you guys all know, I'm very actively working to be a full-time promissory note investor, okay? And so I put down a number last night that kind of calculates backwards that if I had $2.5 million in mortgage loans that was paying me an average of 9% interest, then that would pay me a monthly income of a little over $17,000. Now, I think I could live off that, and probably you could too. And that would free me up. Now what that did is it had me working 40 hours a week, 40 weeks out of the year at, what was that, 30 hours a week, 25 hours a week. And so if you get those non-performing or those performing notes in your pipeline at that level, that's going to pay me that kind of income. Now, most of what I do is I invest with joint venture investors who fund the transaction to me, but we split the profits, win all the profits. So what that means is there are joint venture investors out there that can partner with me, fund with me, and enjoy that same type of income totally from a passive basis. So I'm the one that's doing all the work, bringing everything to the table, all the sourcing, all the due diligence, all the funding, all the servicing maintenance, all the things that are involved in being an active note investor and owner promissory notes. My joint venture investors are able to enjoy this on a passive basis. And so I guess what I would leave with you today as I finish up, actually I'm going to get a little kind of a long walk in today, but as I finish up this Friday Stroll video, is sit back and think about today, over this weekend, and just kind of figure out what kind of income do I need. Let's bump it up a little bit because we've got to build wealth. And then what can I do? What is there out there that I can invest in, or some sort of business I can belong to or build or whatever, that's going to pay me the cash flow that I need to cover all my liabilities and still provide me with the opportunity to do what I want to do, that I'm called to do, to get out to that mission or that orphanage in Guatemala and help those kids. Or, I mean, how many of you have had your heartstrings pulled this last week with all the devastation that's gone on in Puerto Rico? And how many of you are thinking, how can I help them? What if I had 10 grand in the bank that I can buy an electric generator and get that sucker shipped over to somewhere so they can have some lights that can power a well so they can have fresh drinking water? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think I'd love to be able to think about. Sorry about that. I'm here on one of the main roads. Anyway, I encourage you, there's a lot of things, a lot of places that we can put our efforts and our activities and our dollars if we're not working for a job. And I realize that's not a bad place to be. Some of us want to be what we're doing, and that's just fine. But anyway, that's just my thoughts for the day. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. Hopefully there's something in there that makes sense to you. And if I can be of any help to you on that, feel free to give me a buzz. Hey, how you doing? Give me a buzz, instant message me, shoot me an email. Again, Cody Cox signing off here on Friday. And one thing I always want you to remember is together, our potential is infinite. Never forget that. Thanks a lot. Signing off now.